it is, and then I will shrink that. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. And as always, let's start with a word of prayer. Dear most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, thank you for all your many blessings. Be with us tonight as the different topics are presented, and help us to learn from them and these different articles, and begin to understand more and more about our bodies and our world that we live in, and how we can best serve you. In Jesus' name, I pray and thank you. Amen. Well, first off, Zika doomsday hoax unravels. Yeah. As Mike Adams, the health ranger, predicted, explosion of brain defects didn't happen. And entire scare campaign was manufactured. From the very first day, Zika hysteria was catapulted into massive awareness. I have correctly called it a massive hoax. And, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with this. And, you know, even if there was some big threat or whatever, as like we have gone over many times with many different products or foods or whatever, there's all kinds of natural resources out there to combat viruses, including Zika, including mosquitoes and all that kind of stuff. So there's nothing to get all bent out of shape about. And his most recent article spells out the real agenda behind the obvious quackery of the Zika hysteria. It's entitled Staged Zika Pandemic Was Engineered by Globalist Governments to Justify the Aerial Bombardment of Awakening Populations with Toxic Chemicals. Who's the caller that just joined us? Garfield?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, you're going to want to pay attention because Florida is in the mix again.
Huh?
Florida is in the mix.
Why?
Doing
We're
some
so popular.
doing some down and dirty stuff.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here, brother.
Okay. Now the Zika fraud has stated to unravel as the Zika doomsday predictions failed to materialize. How could the predictions be correct in the first place? It was all based on infectious disease quackery and viral voodoo. Brazil's Ministry of Health has launched an investigation into the cluster of babies born with brain defects linked to the Zika virus, after an expected explosion of cases across the country did not occur, reports the Globe and Mail Canada. It turns out that even though Zika-carrying mosquitoes spread across Brazil and infected untold millions of people, those infections never translated into neurodevelopmental birth defects, shrunken brains. The Zika virus alone, in other words, isn't causing a wave of microencephaly, which is exactly what I've been accurately telling everyone since day one. The sky is falling shocking lack of brain deformities baffles all the experts who still won't admit they're wrong. The bulk of the cases of congenital Zika syndrome, fetal brain defects that sometimes cause microencephaly or abnormally small skulls, remain clustered in the northeastern region of the country, reports the astonished Globe and Mail. This defiles all the official predictions, of course, which warned the world of a doomsday Zika scenario where humans in all the tropical regions of the world would be reduced to babbling, stunted, deformed creatures unless we all agreed to be bombarded by aerial pesticide chemicals. From the Globe and Mail, quote, we can see there is a kind of cluster in part of the northeast region with a high prevalence and high severity of miscarriage and congenital malformity or malformation that is really severe, said Fatima Moreno, coordinator of epidemiology or epidemiological analysis and information at the ministry. But we didn't find this in other states. Even the adjacent states didn't see the same situation as in the epicenter. We were preparing for an explosion and it didn't come. So we started to think that in this central area, maybe more than Zika is causing this intensity and severity. Note that even now, these scientists still can't admit they're wrong. They can't say that Zika has nothing to do with the microencephaly cases, but they most assuredly can't admit that it has a larvicide chemical dumped into the water supply that caused the neurodevelopmental deformities from the very beginning. See, that's the thing is these, quote, preventive measures or cures or whatever, it's just another way to get rid of toxic chemicals without going through proper channels of disposal, and they're causing all kinds of problems. Yet once again, Zika hysteria dominated the scientifically illiterate media in much the same way as the climate change hoax has grabbed headlines. In both cases, you have the combination of false fear and bad science, amplified by a scientifically illiterate but politically compliant mainstream media that believed by a gullible population of cowardly consumers who fall for every quack science hoax perpetrated on them by dishonest government. And this government in office now is very dishonest and corrupt and illiterate and all the rest. According to quack scientists, mosquitoes conduct racial profiling to bite black people of low economic status. So these mosquitoes target low-income black people. That if they were in the United States, they'd be, you know, on welfare and all that other mess.
Lyle, are you saying that mosquitoes are racist?
I'm not saying it. That's what this article is pointing out, that mosquitoes, they do not discriminate who they, you know, draw some blood from.
Wow. What is next?
Yeah. But they're saying, you know, basically that they do, because this is the kind of area or population in that area, the northeast area of Brazil, where all this microencephaly cases are happening. But it's actually the chemicals that they've put in the water. Okay, so what's the real explanation of a cluster of microencephaly cases among lower income regions of Brazil, where predominantly black-skinned people live, because that's where they dumped the pyroproxyfen chemical into the water? The obvious answer is already identified: toxic chemicals that cause brain deformities. Not mosquitoes of any kind. Pyroproxyfen is the larvicide chemical used by the Brazilian government to try to quell mosquito populations in the poorer, more rural regions of Brazil. Now, what's the if it's such an effective chemical? Why aren't they using it everywhere, even in the rich populations? I mean, after all, they got to protect the rich. But see, it's not safe, and it's probably very cheap. The chemical, as I have exhaustively documented here on Natural News, works by destroying the neurological development of insects, thus an embryo even. Works by destroying the neurological development of insects. A group of scientists in Brazil already sounded the alarm about pyroproxyfen, saying it was the actual cause of the microcephaly. A dramatic increase of congenital malformations, specifically microcephaly, in newborns was detected and quickly linked to the Zika virus by the Brazilian Ministry of Health. However, they failed to recognize that in the area where most sick persons live, a chemical larvicide producing malformations in mosquitoes has been applied for 18 months, and that this poisonous pyroproxyfen is applied by the state on drinking water used by the affected population. Pyroproxyfen is extremely toxic to all forms of life that have a nervous system and carries numerous severe warnings about its toxicity. See PubChem for details. Zika virus has been around for more than 60 years, but has never caused brain deformities. We're going to wait for whoever's joining us to get their sound going and their name in. Whoops, they just left. Or no, that's Laura. Hi, Laura. Okay, the Zika virus, again, has been around more than 60 years, but never has it caused a brain deformity. What we are witnessing with Zika doomsday hysteria is one of the most obscene scientific hoax of the decade, second only to the climate change hoax that's still being perpetrated by the hucksters and con artists of incompetent and corrupt government, like here in the U.S. Another telling admission in the obvious fraud of the Zika doomsday hoax is the undeniable fact that Zika virus has been around for 60 to 70 years, yet it has never been found to cause microcephaly before. The mainstream media admits all this via the Globe and Mail. The virus currently infecting Brazilians is a new Asian strain of Zika, which was identified more than 60 years ago, but never associated with congenital problems are known to be sexually transmittable as this strain is. And that's why all the doomsday warning about Zika never unfolded. After Brazil, the next country that was expected to see the wave of
So I think I'm going to.
Yeah, we hear you, Laura.
I don't know what's going on. My
Your mic is on. Your sound is working. Whoops, you left. Zika was, the wave of congenital Zika was Colombia, which has the second largest number of reported Zika cases, but of more than 12,000 pregnant Colombian women with Zika, only 21 had fetuses or babies with the brain defects. So wait a minute, all this Zika hysteria is being pushed across Florida and the United States, even after 12,000 pregnant Colombian women with Zika resulted in just 21 babies with brain defects. Folks, 21 out of 12,000 defects is a typical rate with or without Zika. Zika has nothing to do with it. That's just 0.175% of babies being born with brain deformities of some kind. But if you listen to the Zika hysteria of CNN, you might be convinced Zika causes 99% brain deformity rate. According to the delirious state-run media of the United States, Zika is so incredibly dangerous that Olympic athletes are refusing to compete in Rio out of the horrifying fear that they might catch Zika. Women are canceling their vacations to Florida. The sheeple are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, frantically slathering themselves with toxic DEET bug sprays in the hope that their own brains won't be turned into mush by Zika, which they already have been by the media. I've got news for them. Their brains have already been turned into mush by the mainstream media that promoted this Zika doomsday hoax from the get-go. And besides, if you're going to slather yourself with bug spray, use some of my essential oil bugs away spray, which is DEET-free. It won't cause any brain defects or other negative side effects. Yet even when I've plugged my own natural bug spray, I'm telling you right up front that Zika is a total hoax. Even if you're infected, it's actually no big deal. Even the CDC admits most people carrying Zika are completely symptomless and require no hospitalization at all. They don't even realize they were infected. The CDC also admits, by the way, that you will self-immunize against Zika upon the first exposure. Go figure that one. Zika hysteria is the height of modern human idiocy and scientific quackery on parade. Think about it. We've got millions of people running around poisoning themselves with chemical bug spray to protect themselves from a fake, fabricated, viral shrunken brains threat that isn't even real. So to protect themselves from a fictional boogeyman, they are giving themselves real cancer from the toxic chemical and popular bug sprays. which is what they were trying to do. They're trying to increase the cancer rate, which is, cancer is big business, so they can sell and administer more chemotherapy. And claim that they are gaining some kind of ground against the fight of cancer. And we need more, and by the way, we need more millions and billions of dollars to do more research. The abject idiocy of all this is astonishing, even to those of us that have already resigned to the fact that most sheeple are too terrified into obedient compliance to dare to think for themselves. Consider the simple fact that if Zika really caused microcephaly, all the populations of Brazil, Colombia, and even Haiti or Cuba would have collapsed decades ago. The history books would be full of documented microcephaly pandemics, and legitimate scientists would have been studying this since the 1950s. So where are all the shrunken head babies then? Somewhere in history in the remote regions of somewhere in Africa where they used to do all that. It's a simple question. Is Zika is so bad and spreading so rapidly, where are all the shrunken head babies? Except for a very small number who were born to pregnant women exposed to toxic chemicals, the wave of shrunken head babies never materialized. They don't exist. But no, we're supposed to believe that magically, without any particular reason, Zika suddenly and spontaneously started targeting black Brazilians of low economic status, causing brain deformities in their children, but no one else's. It's ludicrous at every level of scientific and critical thinking. Turn this all around and consider the following. 2 years ago, someone in the alternative media had claimed that mosquitoes were carrying a virus that selectively caused shrunken brains only in people with black skin and low incomes. We would have been called lunatics by the establishment. But when the establishment says the same ridiculous thing, suddenly it's heralded as science, no matter how absurd the claims. Yes, we have a shrunken brain pandemic in America, and I would even say the White House and Congress. Yes, there are shrunken brains all over our world, but they're not caused by Zika. They're caused by people stupidly believing anything they see reported on CNN's scientifically illiterate propagandist. Yes, there is an epidemic of shrunken brains in America, and it's caused by watching cable news. If you believe anything that you see on CNN, you're probably dumber than a mosquito. Oh boy. Any comment?
As you said live, we have some smart mosquitoes out there.
Yeah, and they're staying away from the rich. I wonder why.
and they're making a killing out of this, buying all these bug spray. They can't keep them on the shelf.
Well, yeah, well, so they gotta sell them somehow. See, and that's the thing.
I know.
Is they gotta cause an epidemic or a pandemic or some kind of hysteria to cause people to go out and buy all these bug sprays that cause cancer. They're known to cause cancer, and yet they won't use something natural to keep the mosquitoes away. Leave creation alone. Let nature and creation, leave all the creatures alone. Let God take care of all that. And a little mosquito bite isn't going to hurt anybody. They only take a
They
little tiny
said two
sampling of
guys were,
blood.
they said two guys were on a camping trip, and the guy had one vegetarian, and he got no bit. Only the guy who ate the meat, the mosquito bite.
Well, see, that's the thing too. You know, mosquitoes are selective about the kind of people they go around. There's certain smells or pheromones or something that they pick up
Wow.
on, and you know, I would make that connection. You know, there was something to do with the meat eating. You know, the animal products oozing out of people's pores. You know, and attracting the mosquitoes. And so they're going to end up with cancer internally, externally, or whatever, some kind of way, not only because of eating the meat, putting themselves at higher risk, but also spraying on the DEET. You don't need the DEET nor the meat. You just need the essential oils, and you can keep the bugs away. And we don't need all these chemicals being sprayed and put in our water supply. You know, standing water is one thing, and our water supply is another. And especially like standing water, you know, in a gutter or something. Well, clean your gutters out and make sure that they drain well. There shouldn't be any law against collecting rainwater and storing it up. Not that you're storing it up for 50 years or 20, you know, but you're storing it up for, you know, later on in the month or later on in the year when it's dry and you need to water your lawn or your garden. It should not be illegal. Yeah, you want to keep a lid on it to keep the mosquitoes and stuff out. You know, here again, common sense about a lot of this stuff. But here is a Green Party for president. There is a third party, at least. There's, you know, the Green Party as well as the Tea Party and the Liberal Party or Liberation Party or whatever. So, you know, it's not just Hillary and Clinton. I mean, Hillary and Trump that are running. But you never hear about the Green Party and their candidate. It's a woman. So if you're looking to just vote for a woman because you need a woman president, here's an alternative. I would definitely lean more toward this woman than Hillary. But anyway, okay, which of the oils, Laura is asking? Well, right off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but Mike has a bug spray that is made up of the essential oils, and I will have to try to do some research on that and get back to you with it. But the Health Ranger has a lot of good stuff. Anyway, here is this lady, Jill Stein, that is the Green Party candidate. A growing number of Americans are feeling discomforted by the lack of choices for president, including the appeal of third-party candidates. Bernie Sanders supporters in particular are feeling the burn after the purported anti-establishment nominee endorsed establishment Queen Hillary Clinton. As a result, progressives are shifting their focus and support to alternatives such as Green Party candidate Jill Stein. Born in Chicago and raised in Highland Park, Illinois, Stein graduated magna cum laude from Harvard College in 1973 before obtaining a degree from Harvard Medical School in 1979 as a practicing physician. Stein began noticing the effects persistent toxin exposure has on public health, leading her to become somewhat of a natural health advocate. Among her many achievements, Stein directed a movement in Massachusetts that established more environmentally friendly standards for the state's Filthy 5 coal plants. She also managed to help shut down a medical waste incinerator responsible for causing adverse health effects among the area's poorest communities. You ever notice a trend? All these adverse health effects, waste incinerator, chemical dumping places happen in around the poorest communities. I wonder why. A politician who understands the implications of everyday toxin exposure, Stein has published 2 books, In Harm's Way, Toxic Threats to Child Development, and Environmental Threats to Healthy Aging, both of which discuss the way harmful toxins cause disease and conditions such as autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which by the inventor of that has denied and disowned all credence to it, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease, and more. The candidate's history as an environmentalist helped her establish a unique understanding of the influence powerful industries, including Big Pharma, have over regulatory agencies, which is arguably one of her greatest strengths as a politician. However, the leftist media looking to defend their donors recently attacked Stein over the statements she made about the collusion that commonly occurs between industry and government. That's the thing, is government is run actually by the big companies. It's not doing the will of the people like it's supposed to as a republic. Leftist media tries backing Stein into corner over her views on vaccines and autism. Trying to demonize her as an anti-vaxxer, the Washington Post asked the candidate if she thought vaccines caused autism. Quote, vaccines are an invaluable medication, she said, adding, like any medication, they also should be approved by a regulatory board that people can trust. And I think right now that is the problem, that people do not trust a Food and Drug Administration or even the CDC for that matter, where corporate influence and the pharmaceutical industry has a lot of influence, end quote. I can agree with that, but yet I also call into question vaccines as a valuable medication statement. Here again, the body is fearfully and woefully made, and God has given us a lot of natural ways to combat all these different things that these vaccines are trying to, they're claiming are good for us. Though, and like I've said before, support the immune system, and the immune system is going to take care of you. Though her response was thoughtful and fair, Stein was still attacked for not giving a hard no, Please just state it in the positive. Vaccines don't cause autism, wrote Fred Brodsky of Twitter. Well, they do, so you can't. She shouldn't say that because that would be a lie. While Stein was unwilling to admit the link between vaccines and autism, her position on GMOs is much more hard-hitting. According to ontheissues.org, the Green Party candidate says she fully, heartedly supports a mandatory moratorium on GMOs until they are proven safe, and she feels that the same about pesticides, which is one of the things I strongly support. So I would definitely be looking for her as somebody to head up the Surgeon General's position if a certain other party was to get elected. When asked as president if she would eliminate federal farm subsidies, Stein said, quote, "Our food system should be treated for what it is and not as a tool for agribusiness but market share. Our current subsidies drive the food systems toward a very unhealthy, industrialized, Frankenfood type system," unquote, which I do agree with. Quote, "Those subsidies need to be redirected to support small farmers and to support community farms and the institutions that can provide real food in a way that is sustainable for the long haul," end quote. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And quote, "That means localized food systems rather than this globalized industrial factory system, which is extremely unhealthy for the economy, farmers, and for people who eat the food. The planet is being poisoned by the pesticides and the greenhouse gases that are being produced by the current system." Well, some of that I kind of agree with, and then there's like all this global warming hint in there that I don't agree with. Here again, eat local, eat in season, eat fresh, you know, all these kind of things, you know, kind of go against the grain of all this globalism. We don't need to be globalized. We know that we have a globe, the whole earth. We can still be friendly. We can still trade. That doesn't mean that we are anti any group of people or that they should be anti-American. I mean, we can be friendly with anybody, but once you start, you know, being anti-American and want to start killing people and chopping people's heads off and you know, just go into all kinds of mass genocide and violation of human rights and one thing and another. No, we shouldn't be the police of the world, but we definitely should be making statements against this kind of thing. And you know, here again, why do we need a lot of the food that we have in our country that doesn't grow here? You know, here again, God put the plants he put where he put them for a reason. And let me kind of go ahead here to the Florida.
Lyle?
Yes.
I have a question. When you say, why do we want to eat things that aren't grown here? Do you eat bananas?
Well, yeah, and see, that's the thing is bananas are something that is becoming a real problem. They're getting some kind of blight or infection, and a lot of the banana farmers are hurting. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of produce that is imported, from way far away parts of the globe, and yeah, I mean we've all become spoiled with all this. No, see, because bananas don't grow around here in the U.S.
Right.
Now, I have heard of some people growing successfully bananas in certain regions of the country. I can't remember where exactly right now. It probably was somewhere in maybe Southern California and Florida or something, where the climate is more tropical. And certainly it could probably be done in some kind of a greenhouse. But, that's the thing is there's other foods that have a lot of the same things that we eat bananas for,
Okay.
like potassium.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Potatoes have potassium.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing is, but I mean, there's a lot of exotic fruits, for example, like star fruit and some of these other, dragon fruit, and yeah, while they're good to experiment on or taste and whatever, to have them as our mainstay or staple or something that we just have to do. Uh, I question it. I wonder why. Um, and here again, don't take me wrong or misunderstand me. Um, there's if a country has an abundance of a certain type of fruit or product, or it could be a vegetable even, why wouldn't they? Um, it would be smart or wise for them to sell it to the world and export it. Um, but here again, it's got to be done in such a way that it doesn't transport disease or bad bacteria, so on. It's just like when you're traveling here in the United States from one state to the other, they have all these border crossings, and what's one of the things they ask you at a border crossing?
If you have any fruit or anything for
Yeah, if you have any fresh fruit or vegetables or anything that you're
vegetables or whatever.
transporting from that state into this state. Uh,
Yep.
and a lot of people carry fruit back and forth all the time. And a lot of people, they cross the border and they'll get some oranges or whatever, and they'll eat them along the way or whatever, or for the trip, and there'll be some left over. Uh, what's the problem with that? The wind will blow some of the same kind of things that they're so concerned about across the border. You're going to put a moratorium on the wind? I mean, some of this stuff is just really ridiculous. Plants is another one. You know, some kind of plant. Well, what that code is for is maybe marijuana, but you know, some plants may be more susceptible to some kind of aphid or some kind of other bug or whatever that might be in the soil that isn't detected you know, when you've bought the plant of whatever type it is, maybe a money tree or it could be some other, you know, house plant or whatever.
My, Lyle,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My sister lives in Georgia,
Uh-huh.
and there was a vine that was in a different place across, you know, across.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people brought this vine to Georgia. Well, this vine it grows really fast,
Mm-hmm.
and it covers everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And if they just would left it stay over there, they wouldn't have now they'd having a problem that it's killing all the trees because it covers them up, totally covers them up, and gets in the cracks, and so the tree doesn't get any, so like more or less choking
Right.
all the trees.
It becomes a parasite, in other words.
Yeah, it's a parasite.
Yeah. You know, and so that's the thing is you have to be knowledgeable and careful about what you transport where. Yeah, it's just like English ivy. That stuff will take over if you don't keep it trimmed back. But see, here again, that's the thing. Keep things trimmed back. If people would trim it, it probably would not be no problem. But what's too much work? Well, hire a gardener. Well, I can't afford it. Well, then don't plant the vine. Or, you know, live with the consequences. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You know, not every kind of plant or whatever ground cover plant is necessarily a good thing for every, you know, in all situations. So, you know, people do have to be careful. People have to, you know, think twice. But, you know, there are some good regulations or whatever out there. But here again, come on, people. Most grocery stores, it doesn't matter what state you're in, from one Lucky's or Safeway to another, to your car, crossing a border. What's the big hairy deal? Nothing. And you know, and a lot of people eat all that stuff up fairly quickly anyway, except for the one that may be rolled under the seat. And you're wondering why this car smells so bad or smells so strong of orange or whatever the fruit that rotted in there. So, you know, hiding it from the border patrol, but or that just got away from you, you know, rolled out of the bag. But anyway, onto this. Florida raises allowable limits of cancer-causing chemicals in drinking water ahead of fracking boom. And I'm just wondering if the same chemical that they're they're using over in Brazil isn't the same chemical that they're putting in the water in Florida, or something similar. I had to mute you, Hank, so you can unmute yourself or whatever when you need to make a comment. Or maybe I can unmute you if you can mute yourself. Okay. On Tuesday, July 26th, Florida's Environmental Regulatory Commission voted, oh, he left the meeting, 3-2 in favor of passing controversial new water standards that will raise the maximum allowable levels of more than 24 cancer-causing chemicals to be dumped into the state's rivers and streams. Now, tell me there isn't something wrong with this picture.
Bad news.
Yeah, I would not want to be in Florida.
No.
Don't drink the water, Garfield. You better get you some kind of way to filter the water. And
You're gonna ship me some water down the line?
you better get you a Kangen machine or a Big Berkey or something.
Gotta get something.
Because, I mean, more than 24 cancer-causing chemicals? They want to raise the cancer rate?
Yeah.
Elijah gotta send me that article.
Oh, sure. I'll try to I'll see if I can send.
Have they stated that they were going to put this stuff in before they put it in?
Well, they're not going to publicize it in such a way that the public is, aware of what's going on. But see, that's the thing, is this regulatory commission voted 3-2. So there was only one vote difference, to go ahead and put the chemicals in the water.
Sick.
Yeah. Okay, now tell me that there hasn't been some kind of underground, underhand, under table, illegal dumping of some money somewhere in somebody's pockets too.
Probably.
Yeah. The new standards, which were based on Florida Department of Environmental Protection, more like perpetration, recommendations were passed despite strong opposition from clean water advocates who say that the move poses a serious health threat that paves the way for widespread fracking operations in the state. Florida regulators pimping for the fracking industry. The higher maximum allowable levels apply to several of the toxic chemical byproducts produced by fracking, such as benzene, leading opponents to the conclusion that the new criteria were designed to protect the fracking industry rather than the health of Floridans. Benzene is a known carcinogen, and the raising of allowable limits, why is it in the water at all?
Yeah.
Allowing the limits to be raised in the Florida waterways is seen by environmentalists as suspicious and a dangerous move. Benzene limits are often set higher in places where fracking operations take place, and the new DEP standards were set to nearly triple the maximum allowable levels of benzene until protest environmentalists and the public prompted regulators to reduce the new limits. But by how much? Initially, they proposed was 1.18 parts per billion, but they cut it back to 1.14 parts per billion. How kind of them. Benzene has been linked to leukemia and other cancers of the blood, but it's just one of the many toxic pollutants associated with fracking. Environmental groups and concerned citizens spoke at the hearing, voicing their opposition to the new criteria and calling for a delay in the voting until 2 vacant seats on the commission panel were filled by Governor Rick Scott. So there's 2 other votes that could have been cast. The 2 vacant seats included one for an environmental community representative and another for a local government representative. The demand for a delay was ignored, prompting one speaker, who was subsequently led out of the hearing by security, to remark that the governor has spat on our decision processing by keeping these seats vacant for over a year. Now see, that ought to disqualify Rick Scott as governor right there. It ought to be grounds for a new election. All these different regulatory seats should be filled 24/7, 365, period. I mean, a week maybe, yeah, I can see. But there's got to be some kind of body in the seat, name in the seat, something to be held responsible. Neither state nor federal regulators can be trusted to protect the public. We know this. The situation in Florida provides more evidence that state regulators are just as willing as those on the federal level to kowtow to the fracking industry, as well as other big corporate interests, such as the biotech and pharmaceutical industries. For example, the United States Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has quietly increased maximum levels of glyphosate, the carcinogen main ingredient of Monsanto's Roundup herbicide, while many other countries are either lowering limits or instituting bans against the use of glyphosate altogether. We can't depend on regulators at any level of government to protect us from those poisons or those who poison our environment in the pursuit of profits. Sadly, in the United States, key positions at regulatory agencies are often filled by representatives of the very industries they are supposed to regulate. I wonder how that happens. And the money spent on lobbying by these industries usually far exceeds what environmental groups or concerned citizens can raise. Backroom deals are made and policies are enacted, often with little or no input or awareness on the part of the public. Our failed regulatory system has put us at great risk by turning a blind eye to the dangerous health, environmentally threatened and polluting practices of the oil and gas industry, among others. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, let's go ahead and go
So
on.
that it contaminate, so that contaminates all the food that's they're growing down there? Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it contaminates the food, but the main thing is the water supply, the drinking water.
Yeah, but doesn't that include the water that gives that are watered to the trees and then whatever? Any of the
Well, not the crops, not so much, because I mean, it depends on where they're getting their irrigation water from.
right?
If they are irrigating.
Yeah,
And see, that's the thing is if they're dumping this into all the streams and waterways, it wouldn't matter which streams or whatever apparently that they tap into, they're going to end up with some of it. And it's going to be on, in, or whatever the soil that the food is growing in. So it's going to have some kind of effect on the food.
right.
So, and see, that's the thing is that they don't, they want to try to demonize and cancerize and everything else, the vegetables and the fruits and the nuts, things that we should be eating. And you know, to hear again kind of say, well, it doesn't matter what you eat, you're going to get cancer of some kind. You know, it doesn't matter. Well, if you raise your own, and you end up maybe even having to filter all the water except the rainwater, which you really it'd be kind of difficult to do, that falls on your garden. You know, what else can you do? See, that's why we need God's help. We need God's protection against all this. And yeah, here again, we need to be educated too. And that's the thing is, let's get educated. Let's don't be sheeple and follow the hysteria of the media. But see, here's another story that proves my point, or further drives the point home about pharmaceuticals and in particular antidepressants. Antidepressants are not antidepressant. They don't make you happy. They, in fact, worsen the symptoms in far too many people, far too much of the time. Plus, there's all kinds of very highly negative side effects, like we'll find out in this article. Are pharmaceuticals to blame for the tragic suicide of Conrad Roy III, an 18-year-old from Massachusetts whose case gained worldwide notoriety after it was revealed that his supposed friend provoked him to take his own life? A lawyer in the case is now arguing yes, noting that both teams had been taking prescription antidepressants at the time when the tragedy occurred. This gets really to be something, I tell you. The highest court in Massachusetts has already decided that Michelle Carter, Conrad's perpetrator, should face charges of involuntary manslaughter for her role in Roy's death. Text messages between the two show that Carter egged Roy on, encouraging him to just do it, at times when Roy was hesitant in following through. Carter apparently badgered him, offering up ideas on what to try if carbon monoxide poisoning failed to get the job done. "You always say you're gonna do it, but you never do," Carter reportedly wrote in a text to Roy, advising him to try the bag or hanging if aspiration with chemical poison didn't work. "I just want to make sure tonight is the real thing." You guys hearing this?
Yeah.
Carter was, it was like she wasn't concerned about his life whatsoever. It's like, be a man, man up, and kill yourself. Take the coward's way out. Oh. Psychiatric drugs made Carter insane, defense claims. No, she was insane already before she started taking the drugs, or taking them in the first place. Carter's lawyers claim that she was just trying to help Roy with his mental issues and shouldn't be held accountable for his death. Well, I beg to differ. She definitely had a large, she deserves a large part of the penalty, of the blame, or the responsibility. Carter vulgarly demanded over text that Roy get back in his truck after he got scared and tried to leave the carbon monoxide-filled cabin. They're now trying to position the case to plead insanity. Since both individuals were apparently, or had been apparently been taking cytopran or Celexa at the time when the incident occurred, Carter's legal defense is now arguing that the mind-altering effects of these drugs are to blame for Roy's suicide. This after earlier claiming that Carter was somehow brainwashed into participating in the horrible incident. How could she be brainwashed into participating when she's the one that egged all this on? Doesn't make any sense. Citalopram is an antidepressant drug that's known to increase users' risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors. So it shouldn't be on the market. And therefore have been plenty of other incidents in the past where users have had suicidal or homicidal thoughts or engaged in suicidal or homicidal acts, which Roy had done while under the influence of these drugs. The defense needs to have these studies reviewed by its experts as to how this drug may have played into the defendant's thinking and conduct during the calendar year of 2014 and how it might affect her thought process and behavior. Joseph Cataldo, Carter's lawyer, wrote in one of the 22 motions he recently filed seeking evidence in the case. Antidepressants are a menace to society. Cataldo's claims Roy had previously attempted suicide 2 years prior and had been in and out of hospitals and doctors' offices where he had apparently been treated for mental illness. This, the defense claims, warrants further inquiry into the role that antidepressants may have played in further damaging the mental state of Roy and somehow that of Carter as well. Cataldo is calling for a forensic expert to evaluate the evidence he's presented. And yet it's already been revealed that Carter knew full well what she was doing at the time and even tried to cover it up after the fact. She apparently texted Roy's sister after her brother's suicide and tried to play dumb as if she were unaware that it had even occurred. Like honesty, I could have stopped it. Honestly, I could have stopped it, Carter wrote callously in a text to some of her other friends several months after Roy's suicide. Arguments of her Toldo's evidentiary motions will take place on September 2nd, and those of the suppression motion on October 14th. If everything goes as planned, Carter could go to trial as early as December. That's not a very speedy trial, if you ask me. But you know, that's another thing that's in the news. Flying in filth. 9 airplane surfaces that harbor dangerous bacteria. Let me put that link in here too. And everybody should be getting a email with the text box stuff in it.
Good.
Whether I have that capability of doing that or what doc can do it. Okay. And I don't know if I got the first one in there, but I can probably go back and get it and put it in. Planning on taking a summer getaway by plane? Be prepared, as research has shown that bacteria and microbes can thrive for days on airplanes. The small enclosed space, recycled air, the person sitting next to you with a nasty cough, a cold, flu, or stomach bug never seems to be too far off. If you're sick, don't travel. Don't allow them on the plane. Researchers at TravelMath sent a microbiologist to swab and analyze samples from various locations in 5 airports and 4 flights. The study revealed how disgusting traveling by plane can be. They found that aircrafts and airports are teeming with bacteria. Surprisingly, the dirtiest surfaces of all the locations and surfaces tested wasn't found in the bathroom, but right under our noses. The tray table, our place where we rest our food, contained the most bacteria. Next time you board a plane, arm yourself with tips to avoid getting sick. Speaking to the New York Post, 2 experts reveal 9 of the dirtiest places on the airplane and how to protect yourself from the bacteria lurking on these surfaces. Like mentioned earlier, the tray table is the dirtiest, most likely place to harbor pathogenic bacteria. Philip Terrano, PhD, a professor of microbiology and pathology at NYU School of Medicine and author of The Secret Life of Germs, claims that nobody is thoroughly cleansing the tray tables once the airplane drops off its passengers. Gesundheit. And I used to work for a continental, well, a contractor with Continental Airlines, Chelsea Foods, and our catering, Chelsea Catering, and I don't see how they have time to go through the plane, a plane, to sanitize it and all properly and get it ready for the next flight to go out. But you know, here again, that's something within the industry that they don't take apparently take enough time to handle. According to Dr. Neil Nandy, a gastroenterologist and assistant professor at Drexel University College of Medicine, cleaning tray tables with a hand wipe is the first thing people should do when they take their seats. The next thing is the touch screens. Leave the magazines alone. Just as tray tables, touch screens house a broad range of germs that easily can be tackled by sanitizing the whole screen before you start watching a movie. The New York Post also warns to stay clear from in-flight magazines as they have been sitting there and collecting germs for months. Not just days or hours, but months. Bathroom door handles. Many people don't wash up after they use the bathroom, which I have observed in many public places, many of which you would not think that would be the case, like at church. Next to the tray tables, the bathroom door is one of the filthiest places on the plane. Tierno suggests to carry a sanitizing gel with 60% alcohol with you and clean your hands when you return to your seat. Toilet and lid. According to Nandy, some particles may be dispersed into the air when flushing. To avoid any of these particles ending up on your hands, make sure to lift the seat with a paper towel or toilet paper. Soap dispenser and water faucet. Faucets and soap dispensers are two other germ collecting hotspots, as they are the first thing you'll touch after your business. Again, using sanitizing gel after leaving the bathroom is the best way to make sure your hands are germ-free. Paper towel dispenser. While airplane toilets may be cleaner than tray tables because they are cleaned regularly during the flight, most surfaces still contain a good number of sick-making bacteria when reaching for a paper towel. Make sure only to touch the towel itself and avoid surrounding areas or surfaces like, you know, the container. Overhead air vents. As reported by Nandy, people are constantly adjusting air vents, making it yet another place where bacteria can thrive. To avoid a steady stream of bacteria blowing into your face, use a tissue to wipe it clean before you adjust the airflow. Headrest. The headrest may house lice. Oh, good night, Peg.
Good night.
The headrest may house lice or germs coughed up by previous users. Tierno advises people to bring their own pillows or create a protective barrier with a sweater or towel. Sneezing passengers. Sick people seated behind or next to you can also spread germs. If they are constantly sneezing or coughing, it may be worth asking for a seat change. Good luck with that one. I think I did put that one in there. China. Hopefully we have enough time for this one. China dumps $30 million into weather modification program, seeding clouds with chemicals to create rainfall. China's Ministry of Finance recently announced that it has allocated 199 million yuan, or 29.8 million US, to be spent, on sound cleaning, seeding, weather modification projects being implemented throughout the country. The Chinese government is hoping that the cloud seeding operation will ease drought conditions and lessen the impact of weather-related disasters, which claim hundreds of lives each year. Cloud seeding technology was developed in the United States during the late 40s and involves the use of chemicals such as silver iodide crystals, which are dispersed into the air to create rainfall. When cloud seeding chemicals are introduced into the atmosphere, they cause raindrops within a cloud to form more quickly, making rainfall sooner than it normally would. The Chinese plan involves the use of aircraft, guns, and rockets to fire salt and mineral bullets into the sky to stimulate rainfall in drought-stricken regions. The Ministry of Finance hopes to create an extra 60 billion cubic meters of rain each year by 2020 through the use of the technology. At least 52 countries currently pursuing weather modification programs. China is not the only country currently implementing weather modification projects. China is far from the only nation trying to bring or stop the rain. At least 52 countries, including the United States, have current weather modification programs, 10 more countries than 5 years ago, according to the World Meteorological Organization. Weather modification, also known as geoengineering, has become a controversial issue in the United States and elsewhere. And although there is no definite proof that so-called chemtrails, but yet there has been, filling our skies are the product of a secret, not secret any longer, government plot created to modify the weather, or according to some, to depopulate the planet, which is more likely. There certainly are cloud seeding operations taking place in the U.S. and in many other countries. Geoengineering has become a booming business, particularly in response to recent severe drought conditions in the U.S. and throughout the world. California and several Midwest states are currently using cloud seeding technology to combat drought conditions. Rainfall is desperately needed in many areas where water for drinking and crop irrigation is in short supply. Try prayer. Because what ends up happening, they get an abundance of rain and flooding and lose more life and property damage in other parts of the country than where they're having the drought and they need the rain. In India, millions are being spent on cloud seeding programs, and in Russia, 1.3 was spent on a project in May created to stop rain from falling during International Works Day. China was reportedly successful in clearing the skies for the 2008 Beijing Olympics by causing the rain to fall early. What will be the long-term impact of geoengineering? Cloud seeding is an inexact science. However, and it's difficult to measure just how effective it really is, although most experts agree that it does work, at least to a degree. But it doesn't take a meteorologist to realize that if it rains more in one place, then it is likely going to rain less somewhere else. That's an oversimplification, of course, but there are legitimate legal and ethical concerns regarding large-scale geoengineering operations, not to mention their effect on overall weather patterns and the environment in general. Some experts are worried that silver residue from cloud seeding operations may pollute river basins. D. Samuelson of News Target questioned the practice of paying billions of dollars to spew chemicals like ammonium perchlorate, aluminum powder, copper iodide, acetone, and silver iodide to make rain. And a lot of those things are they're very toxic. Do we really need to be dumping more toxins into the environment just to make it rain? No. Geoengineering may be used for more sinister purposes than easing droughts. The U.S. government employed cloud seeding technology in Vietnam for military purposes, and research into weather modification as a weapon continues in the U.S. and elsewhere. The multi-billion-dollar geoengineering business is likely to keep growing, especially with more nations beginning to see the potential for both peaceful and military applications of the technology. But the long-term impact of playing God with the weather remains to be seen, and the cost may be greater than we realize. Any comment so far? And we are out of time. I have put another link in for something I haven't shared, but I probably will share if I can remember next week. So any comment or anything on tonight? Any discussion? Anybody disgusted?
I am. I'm disgusted with all this. So how do we, it's hard to think about that it's all happening in the governments. A lot of the governments are doing it.
Right. Well, and see,
they're letting it happen.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing is they're promoting it.
Yeah.
They're supporting it.
Don't they realize they're killing themselves too?
Well, but see, that's the thing. If they're eating, the upper crust organic food, they're not getting all this stuff. See, and that's the thing is, I'm sure a lot of them are eating more organic because they've got the money. And they're eating at restaurants that, serve organic, whatever, meats, whatever. And yeah, a lot of their diet isn't, good, but here again, God is the one that has the ultimate say on who lives and dies when and whatever and how. Yeah, we have a lot in that too, because I mean, God doesn't make the decision for us as to what we put in our mouth. Although we should be consulting with him about that. And that's the thing, is a lot of these people in power, they yes, there are some, of course, that know God and have a relationship with him. But for the most part, they have no belief in God. They look upon themselves as God, or that the government collectively, or the elite, the multi-billion and gazillionaires are the only ones with any brains, and all us poor peons, don't have the brain cells to select our food for breakfast. And I've heard and watched and seen videos and whatever where these people are saying that same kind of, that very, basically that very thing. Oh, the common person's too ignorant. What makes you so special and elite and whatever that you can say that? That's totally unfounded and off base. So, and here again, God is the ultimate authority. He's the one that created us and created our food supply and created our food and told us what to eat. And so it's just up to us to cooperate with him and his spirit to have the lifestyle that he recommends. And
so would be better if we just ate the foods that we have in our state? Everything that we grow, that we,
well, here again, it's best to eat
keep it local.
Yeah, eat what's out of your garden.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, it's going to come down to that, to where we only have the food in our garden, in our backyard, right. In our back forest or whatever. And see, that's the thing is, I want to get to a place where I can have a garden, and I mean a real garden, not planters and whatever. I'm talking about a real, acreage of garden,
yeah,
that I can work, that I can rototill and walk out in every
and we
morning.
have enough to can it or whatever and have it for the whole year.
Yeah, that I can walk out in and pick my breakfast, that I can walk out in and pick my lunch.
Yeah.
And if you eat a third meal, go out in there and pick it and eat it. Or go out and pick what you're going to eat the next day for breakfast. But, pick it and eat it fresh. It's so much better that way.
Yes.
And you don't have to worry about getting in the car and going down to the store. You just walk out in the backyard and go to the garden and pick and eat.
Yeah.
You don't even have to worry too much about how well you wash it. Not using all the chemicals that are used to produce all the commercial crops. So anyway, we are again out of time, and so we need somebody to close us out with a word of prayer, and we'll see everybody back here again next week.
Yes. And I can pray.
Okay. Thank you,
Heavenly
Laura.
Father, we thank you for all the knowledge that you're giving us this day, making us aware of what's going on, and what we really need to do is, Lord Jesus, we know that you're in charge of everything, in control of everything, and we need to depend on you for so many things, and making us aware of what we can do and buy locally and organically. We just thank you, Lord. We thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And that's the title right here kind of says it all. 7 days on an organic diet eliminates 90% of pesticide accumulation in humans. That's a mouthful, but it
Yeah.
kind of summarizes the whole.
90%, that's really good. Oh my, yeah.
See, just 7 days on an organic diet.
Experience the same headaches and things as if you went on a detox.
Yeah, you're going to experience symptoms, and that's why it's important to stay the course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
See,
Just wondering if you're going to.
Yeah.
Just wondering if how.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is a lot of people get discouraged or give up on making these changes because I'm sicker, or I'm worse off than I when I was eating McDonald's or whatever. No, your body is going through a detox, and you've got to just hang in there and go through it.
But just like the folks in the desert, were there enough braves in Egypt to have to bring us out here in the desert to die?
Yeah.
And they always tell themselves, but they don't understand. You have to fight. You have to be willing to fight for what's right in your life. It just doesn't come easy. It's not handed to you on a silver platter. You have to do it.
Well, and that's the thing is we live in a fallen world. We're fallen people in a fallen world, and it is getting worse and worse as the years and decades and whatever go by. So we have to the fight has to be, you know, all the stronger. So anyway, good night, everybody, and hope to see you in the morning and tomorrow morning for a cup of J, and tomorrow evening for the Lord's Supper. And I don't anticipate having to miss it, but you never know in my life.
You should come up.
God bless you all.
Yeah, God bless you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, can you and Hank stay on? I need to talk to you guys for a minute.
Okie doke.
Yep. Can you unmute Hank? I gave you control and I can't get it back. For the last 10 minutes. No go.
Well, nobody's muted. Hank is muted himself.
Is caller 1 Hank or is that Garfield?
I think it's caller 3 because Hank caller 1 is Garfield. Caller 3 is Hank.
Okay. Hank, can you hear us? Hank?
Yo, Hank. Unmute us thyself.
Yes. Unmute.
I hear it. I hear you.
There you are. I just wanted to talk to you two guys for a minute. Garfield can listen in, I guess. I've been talking to Keith, and what we've been talking about is ways to get people's attention and start making a difference. And Keith says we've gone too much. Well, wait a minute. We need to end the recording.
Oh, yeah. Can you do that?
End it. You're the one who punched these buttons.